What up, y'all? So, it took me a while to decide to do this character as the next character. I went through a couple of annoying work weeks. I had to see a lot of footage, and I also had to reinvest myself a little bit into playing this character to get to doing this intro. Before I get into the character, I gotta talk about some disclaimers. First, and the major disclaimer, this video will be long. I am talking long. The reason why is because I do not think I can do it justice if I do it concise or anything. This is the only character where I want to explain where she does over just giving you tidbits and help about combo theory. I have to explain what she does because she's more layered than that. Second, her shadow counterpart will be a separate video. The reason why is because I find them as two completely separate characters. I do not think they are the same character. For Naoto, you saw I didn't even do her shadow because to me personally, at the end of the day, they still do the same thing. Just Shadow Naoto does everything faster. That's it. Normal Naoto can go for damage or can go for fate. You have 50 meter to a fate route. Oh, and it's B gunshot. That 3 fate route did 9. That 4 fate route did, the 4 fate route did 10, etc. You sit there and get proper counter hits, you farm for your counter hits all day. Well, you're still doing damage. You're still doing half health plus if you know how to optimize. Shadow Naoto just gets more meter to be able to do that faster. That's it. She has double fang loops that you can do with Shadow Naoto. Cool, there's your damage. She can sit there and just do EX raid to do 2 fate shots. That's 2U. Whatever. Does it faster. Chie, on the other hand, I did 2 separate shadow videos to explain what she does because mechanically you have to get introduced to new things to play Shadow Chie. You have to sit there and know that jump install, which only character in the game that has to do that. You have to understand the positioning that changes that you have to deal with power charge because of the fact that it fixes the screen in the Chie. So that's how C Dragon Kick into SB charge works, to sit there and get the follow-up. Or you have to deal with freeze timing and knowing how to super jump cancel your freeze timing and like the ground grab route. So you sit there and do ground grab, delay 2C, SB charge to sit there and get that because your freeze is dependent on height and or your 2C hitting once. Mitsuru has all that. Mitsuru v Shadow Mitsuru, it's all of that. And that's why separate video, and both videos will be pretty lengthy, but the Shadow Mitsuru will not be as lengthy as this one. This one will easily, and I mean easily, take me about 25 to 30 minutes. I know it's long, I know a lot of people do not like non-concise videos, but I have to explain more for this character in order for people to understand what she does. It's just that simple. I have to explain more for people to understand what she does. Third, expect me to stumble. This will be a long video. Again, I expect it to be 25 minutes, maybe 30. So expect me to stumble. I have water next to me. You might hear me even drinking it. I don't plan on it, but you might expect that just because this is a long video. I'm doing it as a one take. I want all of my videos to be more authentic because I'm not doing them commercially. I make no money off this channel. I literally just put out the knowledge I know. So with that, I do videos usually as one takes and I sit there and just record them. I can't say I realized that I didn't update my OBS settings once I installed this PC and or every other reinstallation I've had to do with OBS updates. So finally, I redid my recording settings, so the quality of this video should be better audio-wise compared to normal. Or at least I hope. So, let's get into it. Mitsuru. Mitsuru is a mid-range / spacing-based character that is also a charge character. A charge character, if you are newer to fighting games, is characters like Guile, Saki from Arcana, Cho-un from Koihime, if you've been watching my channel. For pseudo charge characters, characters that have charge moves that are not full charge characters, you'd have Chun-Li as an example, Kagura, who's a mixed character that's both a stance character and a charge character. Those would be the 5 examples of characters I'll give you. All those characters, they get a lot of benefits from holding down back. Down back charges both of your charges. It charges your forward charge and your upward charge. The way charges work is they are a release. So if I'm charging back, I release forward while pressing the button, I get coup draw. If I'm charging down, which down back is doing both, and then I hold up, press C, I'm going to get C Bufula. That is for those newer to charge characters. For the spacing part, let me explain the 3 ranges I will reference quickly within this video. This, up close, all the way next to Yukiko, about in this range, this would be range 0. You are strong here, but you have a lot of issues with certain things you'd like to use. Your C normal specifically are weak here. You can get punished for all of them. This is a respect factor place where your respect matters. A backdash away about here, this is range 1. Range 1, all of your toolkit is usable. There is still a respect factor to a little degree, but there is a lot you can do here to sit there and mutilate things. Range 2, which is essentially round start distance, about here, I'll actually reset. This is range 2. I think this is her most effective range. Being here allows everything in your kit to have full access. The reason why I say this is because she is one of the slower characters when it comes to normals. That's just because, like, she has all that range, and I will talk about that briefly in a second. So she has all that range. Range 2 allows her to get access to that, all of her other gimmicks, persona normal, etc., and it's hard to contest her unless you are literally calling her out. So first we're going to get into auto combo. So to talk about this now instead of later, I'm going to talk about it way more in depth once I get into Shadow Mitsuru, which will be its own separate video again. Shadow Mitsuru, her auto combo for 5AA vacuums on hit. Normal Mitsuru, pushback. So much so, does that in the corner. Without dash momentum, this doesn't work. If you saw the preview to this section, you saw I did that with Shadow Mitsuru. Took mid-screen character all the way to the corner, nuked them for 7.7, right? If you haven't, I say go peep that because it's going to be kind of a while before I get into explaining Shadow Mitsuru. That 5AA really matters, and I'd say for 5AA, normal Mitsuru, you are weaker in that because of the fact that you don't get access to always getting your charge 2B when you're in range 0. But you have a workaround that I'll talk about later once I have to talk about a normal. It's very nuanced by itself. But your auto combo is really good, and it ranks from range 2. Another thing about this auto combo, because your 5A hits that far, your auto combo works that far, on air hit. So this is the one case where normal Mitsuru has advantage compared to Shadow. Because of spacing, especially being in range 2, range 1, you're going to get a lot of anti-air 5A confirms with this character. It just happens. Like sometimes you just beat a hop at random. Sometimes someone's jumping, they misspace their jump, they almost land in front of you and you 5A. That happens a lot. Because of her auto combo, or 5AAA, not doing what Shadow Mitsuru's does, which it vacuums and then lifts the character up on it to the point where the character can be above Mitsuru. This allows her to do something unique that Shadow Mitsuru can't do, which kinda makes it better for her. That does naturally work. And it's way more layered than when I'm presenting it. Because if you're really close in range 0, right, it can combo normally, or it can cross up. But what's better is that since it's your auto combo, you're just massing A, you still have access to other things, right? And her 5AAA is still cancelable. So you can do that, just get a simple knockdown, right? Cool. Or something like that, if you're simple. I wasn't ready, I wasn't charging. I crossed up, let's go. Or you can get 2.7 off of your anti-auto combo, essentially. With the gaining 40 meter if it's at round start. Kinda crazy. And that's not considering you could also do AoA to get the AoA meter bonus and actually get way more meter than that. So, very important to recognize that you can do that, and that is a normal Mitsuru thing. Shadow Mitsuru does not have that. Shadow Mitsuru used to pay attention and actually go for a more meticulous route that actually, in the scheme of things, is actually worse. And I'll talk more about that once I get into Shadow Mitsuru. But going back into talking this range real quick. So 5A hits from round start, right? Every character has to deal with that. You have to backdash to get away. 2A hits essentially into range 0 range from range 2. So essentially it attacks a whole range and a half away. And, you know, she's a charge character. You have coup draw on literally just down backing and holding releasing forward, so you still get a combo from that. Sorry about that if you heard that. And that's to her advantage. That's something important. So, and also, characters that have to run at her, this is a massive gatekeeper. Because if you have to physically touch her, like you are Akihiko, you are Chie, etc., you have to play around this existing, and if you are not calling it out, jumping in range, and calling her out deliberately for it, getting hit by this, especially if it's counter hit, could be the end of you. Especially if it's Shadow. Like, this can end you. So you gotta pay attention to that. So, let's get into a more nuanced tool that I already referenced, needing to be talked about, her B normal. I'm not going to call it 5B. I cannot. It does not work that way because it is not that simple. So let's talk about B. So B, charge B. Reason why I cannot call this 5B or charged 5B is because of the fact that 4 moves you backwards, 6 moves you forwards. So she can transfer ranges with this move. Very important to recognize. I cannot stress it enough. It is important to recognize. And it's way more layered than that because the charge version does it too, on top of the fact, yep, throw game. Very important thing about Mitsuru is throw game. Introducing a throw game, making someone always recognize that it exists. That is the main thing about these ranges, is because of the fact that you can do stuff like this. Up, persona displacement, right? Right? All of that is stuff that requires you to kind of play in and out of ranges to get your effectiveness. That is part of playing Mitsuru. It's very important. And being able to play between your range 0, your range 1, and your range 2 are very key on introducing that throw, getting in and out of it, and showing all the threat your character has. Especially both B normals, regardless of charge or not. Your normal B and your charge B, fatal. The only difference that you hit this, they crumple, and you usually will do 1k extra damage compared to doing the same route off normal B. That's it. I'll leave that on because I'm going to need it for later. So that's the main thing about B. Like, that is one thing you have to talk about. But she has another thing with B, and this is for 2B, JB. So, like I said, you have a charged 2B. You also have a charged JB. That's let me take counter hit off of this. So, one mechanic in this game, there's a couple characters that actually have it. It's way more than just Mitsuru. It's just that it's hard to notice it. And or sometimes you don't see the mechanic come on screen. There is a just frame mechanic in this game. Once you hit a just frame, it actually does slightly more damage and slightly more meter gain. One other character that some people will not believe it, that I will actually name off top, is Labris. Labris has a just frame sweet spot on her DP, where it will actually do roughly only like 100 or so more damage. I've shown it a little bit, but it's hard to consistently do because it's based off of a screen shake and it doesn't say just frame on it. But it'll do 100 or so more damage. Usually also hits so high once you do it properly that you always will get 2B, which sometimes you won't as a follow-up after charge DP. So for her, it's charge release timings. I'm going to drop this. Do not expect to be consistent in this. I'm not consistent with it. I don't know a lot of players that are consistent with it. It just kind of happens. So like her normal 2B does 500, right? Her charge 2B 650. If you get a just frame, if it allows me to do so, $1K flat off her charge 2B. Like, it is very awkward to time. You have to you can get used to this, but it is very specific, and I want to just point the mechanic is out there. It also exists for her charge JB, but they're very hard to do. But the benefit is more damage and slightly more meter. Usually gives like 1 to 2 extra meter if you do it successfully. If you can do multiple in succession, you are cooking, because then you're kind of just crazy with it. But if you can get that initial one, you are doing a lot for yourself, because that can drastically change damage. I'll try to showcase it later, but watch me not be able to. So from talking charge / just range normals, we're going to go into utilizing her charge 2B, because this is a very important combo tool, and knowing that from this doesn't normally work, so sometimes you do this. That is essentially the B&B for Mitsuru in the corner, but there's nuance to it. Because, one, you have to use 6B to get in range, at least for cases where you got the hit, you're not perfectly in range 0, you're not one of the few characters where you can do 5A8 and 2 charge 2B naturally. Yukiko is not one of those characters, which is why I'm using Yukiko as the dummy. So you have to use 6B into charge 2B. Kind of eliminates some of your routing, some really powerful routing if that, but there's workarounds to it, and like mid-screen you can't do this does not work, right? But here's the thing about this, because this moves forward, it actually carries momentum into your OMC, so this is the thing. So it's very good to keep that in mind, that this does carry momentum. So that's kind of how you recoup the fact that you're not Shadow Mitsuru and you can't do 5AA and 2 charge 2B naturally on a lot of confirms. Our next topic that we're going to go into is coup draw. I want to do this now, and then I'll talk about freezing last. I have to talk about two different coup draws. And I should have gave a disclaimer that I'll say this multiple different ways because my brain is not processing it one way. But let's talk about B, and then we're going to talk about SB. Because SB has a lot of nuance to it. And now I'm going to put counter hit on. So, I just showed you two versions of a combo, but you saw the actual corner version, which would be right? Cool. Fine and dandy. But as you see, I had to burn my B normal early before I could do charge to B. That's just how that works. That's how it usually will work. The way coup draw works, as you saw, is the fact that it actually has a sliding knockdown mechanic to it. You can't see it too much, but it does. That sliding knockdown is very important because essentially it works based off of height. The sliding knockdown timing is always the same, but the higher you hit someone in the air with coup draw, delays them actually touching the ground, so it delays the slide, allowing you to OTG. So for combos like this, I got the just right. Wasn't expecting that. That's 3.9. It's supposed to be 3.7, but I got the just frame. Because of the fact that I was able to do the coup later. Allowed me to do all of my freezes later. So I was able to stack up the later end of damage later, allowing for me to sit there and get extension because I hit that B draw in the air, allowing for a combo extension. But again, most of the time you're only going to get that charge to B in range 0. So how do you work around that? Well, on counter hit, and this is where SB coup draw comes into play. On counter hit, from your 2A and your 5A, usually from your max ranges, your sweep will combo. That's only on counter hit. They do not do this naturally. You can do certain things on crouch confirm, but again, counter hit is usually where you're going to shine. If you're prepared, you can combo in the B draw, but again, it doesn't work if you know, it's like, hey, I hit you grounded. I don't have that airtime, so I can't do my natural OTG. This is where SB coup draw comes into play. So, SB draw allows you to OTG. Just gives you that time because it naturally positions them high enough for OTG to happen. But there are some drawbacks. One, SB draw is actually usually going to happen as a bonus damage, depending, because the fact that if you're mid-screen, you're not going to do anything, right? You're not going to get anything. And so there's going to sometimes be ranges where, like, you think you're next to the corner, but you're not close enough, so you don't know. Even though B draw moves forward based off of you holding forward or holding back. During it. So, one play is you sit there and you get like 2A, B draw, recharge. You can do that. That recharge still allows for you to OTG, but here's the thing about it. Certain characters, you can't do that straight raw 2B. It does not work. That raw 2B is what you would like to happen, but it doesn't work all the time on all characters, plus it's like kind of timing dependent. So a thing is that some cases you use SB draw and you're going to treat it like the normal confirm. You have to keep in mind you're scaled, so you won't be using this, and I'll explain why in a second, but you won't be using that, but you'll sit there and do 2A, 2B, C Bufula, either, depending on proration, let them land, charge 2B, D Bufu stuff, or you can do C Bufu, other Bufu, C Bufu, D Bufu, charge 5B AOA, which I showcased in the 6B corner, the 6B combo with the momentum, right? So it's good to keep in mind, SB draw is a really good combo tool. On top of it, it's just fast. So this is a good counter poke. A lot of people will use this as a reversal, like, because legit, what's stopping you? Kinda. Like it is just so fast. Like, it does not look that fast, but this is extremely fast. It just kind of comes out, it kind of denies a lot of things, so it's good to keep in mind what SB draw does. So, going from that, we're going to talk about our last thing, freezing. So, there's going to be one freezing move I am not going to talk about, Tentaru. What I'm only going to say about this is that this is a really good poke once you're outside of your ranges of range 0, range 1, and range 2. Because of the fact that it does kind of just hit full screen, puts panic on, which is not as strong as it used to be, but whatever. But the fact that it does 1k or 1.1k for counter hits, good job. And SB is fast too. Like, that's a really good tool, but we're not going to talk about it. But we're going to talk about the rest of the freezing. So, 5D, 2D, C Bufu, D Bufu. So, first, C Bufu, close to Mitsuru, moves forward. D Bufu, starts away from Mitsuru, moves towards her. These are interchangeable. You can use them in whatever order you need to in combo. Problem is, D normals are not. As you saw, the first 5D freezes. That 2D after the first 5DD did not freeze. So these can only freeze once and only one of them will freeze. Very important to realize. Like, that works, but only once. Very important. Same thing with 2D, only once. Also, they cannot be used after a Bufu. They have to take priority. I will showcase this now. So, like I said, you saw this. I don't know how many times I'm going to showcase this combo. Right? Cool. You see me use this first. So, I'm going to do a combo that doesn't do that first. That was my fault. Air attacks does not work. It just doesn't. Even though, in retrospective, you can do the other two, but C and D Bufu were interchangeable. So the weird way to do this is to show this. I give him a 2A. Right? That worked. It was a weird route, but that worked. You saw the second freeze. So it's very important to realize D normal has to come first, then the other two are interchangeable, which is important when you're doing gimmicks like this, or... Because yes, she has to get a combo off throw. She just has to. Right? And again, throw, very potent part of this character's kit. So, have to be able to introduce that. You just have to. And that's why you have to play in and out of range 0, range 1, range 2. Because being able to throw bait somebody and fatal them like that, like mwah, like perfect, like perfect. You explode. Thanks for the 5K. Like, thank you. So that's all I gotta talk about normal Mitsuru. I am once again sorry and apologizing for any stumbles. The fact that this video is long, it was inevitable. I had to talk about more things. I just had to. I wouldn't let myself not, because it wouldn't make sense. And once again, it's just the way I have to present information for new people to understand it, on top of the fact that I just have to do it my way, is the easy way to put it, because if I do it concise, it doesn't feel natural to me. It feels like I'm doing scripted, and if I monetize the channel, cool. I don't do that though. So, thank you for tuning into this long video. It is over 30 minutes. It's actually about to be 31. I will be dropping these combos shortly. Expect a lot of them on Yukiko, and I will do a few that are usually just the characters that they work on. And you'll see some gigantic differences in damage for those routes too. Later.